Chapter 5 Tissues. This chapter will cover the locations, characteristics, and the functions of different epithelial tissues, connective tissues. In complex organisms, our cells are grouped together into tissues. And so here the cells have similar functions and they have a similar shape. So tissues are really just groups of similar cells with a common function. The study of tissues is called histology. So there are 4 different major types of tissues: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Before we go into the different epithelial tissue types, these are the connections between the cells. Tight junctions. So these are very strong connections between the cells, but the important point for this is that they prevent passage of fluids between the cells. As an example, between our stomach cells, you would see these tight junctions because in your stomach you have that very strong acid. You do not want that acid to come out of your stomach. And so these very strong connections between your stomach cells prevent the leakage of the fluids, or the acid in that case, going in between the cells. Okay, then desmosomes are also connections between the cells, but here they prevent tearing of tissues. A good example of where you would see desmosomes would be between your cardiac muscle cells. So your heart contracts with so much force to pump the blood. If these strong connections were not there between your heart cells, then your heart cells would just come apart from each other. And so here these desmosomes have intermediate filaments attaching them, keeping them in place. Another type of connection, gap junctions. Gap junctions are really just little channels between the cells. So think of these as little doors or windows between the cells so that stuff like molecules, food molecules, waste substances can move in between the cells. So next, we'll go through the epithelial tissues. So these tissues cover our organs, our body surface, for example, our skin, lines, cavities, hollow organs, and they make up our glands. They have a free surface on the outside and the basement membrane on the inside, meaning the basement membrane is on the deeper part. It attaches the tissue to the deeper tissues. Epithelial tissues usually lack blood vessels, but in epithelial tissues, the cells divide quite rapidly, and so injuries do heal very easily, and the cells are tightly packed in epithelial tissues. In epithelial tissues, there are different types of cells that can be found. Squamous means flat, cuboidal is cube-shaped, columnar tall. Then we're going to see that different epithelial tissues may have different numbers of layers. If it's only made up of one layer of cells, it's called simple. Stratified means 2 or more layers, and pseudostratified means appears layered, but it's not. So more importantly, we're now going to cover the different types of epithelial tissues. You need to know for these ones location and functions. For the location, these are found in the air sacs of our lungs. Air sacs are called the alveoli. The function for this tissue is diffusion of gases or nutrient molecules. And so this type of tissue is also lining the inside of our blood vessels. Simple cuboidal tissue. This one is made up of just a single layer of cube-shaped cells. We find this tissue making up our kidney ducts. Kidney ducts is where urine is produced. And so the function for this is secretion and absorption. Simple columnar is a single layer of tall cells. Here the location for this type of tissue is in our digestive tract. So the lining of our stomach, intestine, and the function of this tissue is for absorbing nutrients. Stratified squamous tissue is made up of many cell layers. So here the cells are on top of each other. Because it is made up of many cell layers, this is important for protection. So these cell layers help to protect the deeper tissues below, deeper to this tissue. The location for this tissue is our skin. Also, it's found inside of our mouth and in the vaginal and anal canals. Pseudostratified columnar ciliated tissue. A good location for this one is inside of our trachea, but it's also inside of our nose. Here the cells have these extensions called the cilia. And here the cilia help to move the mucus. And so for the function, move mucus or other substances along the cell surface. And goblet cells would be found in this tissue. Goblet cells are making the mucus. Transitional tissue. This does have many cell layers, but the cells at the top are more circular or dome-shaped. Versus in the stratified squamous, the cells are flat at the top. This does not have any cilia. Location for this one, bladder. It's also found in the ureter and the upper part of the urethra. Our function for this one is that it's able to stretch easily and go back, recoil to its original shape. Stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar epithelial tissues make up glands. So glandular epithelium is composed of cells that secrete substances into our ducts or body fluids. There are two types of glands, endocrine versus exocrine. Endocrine glands make their secretions and then release these secretions, these products, into blood or lymph vessels. Versus exocrine glands, they release their substances into ducts that travel to a surface or to an inside of another organ. Now, usually glands are either endocrine or exocrine. Pancreas is special is that pancreas is both. So let's look at why. Pancreas makes insulin, glucagon hormones. These hormones are released into blood vessels, as you can see in the picture. So because blood vessels are used to transport these substances out of the pancreas, this is called the endocrine function. Then the pancreas also makes digestive enzymes. These digestive enzymes are made here in these cells called the acinar cells, which you do not have to know for this chapter. So then these digestive enzymes are moved inside the duct, which is the long green tube that you're seeing here in the picture. And so then this duct moves these digestive enzymes into our intestine, into the duodenum of our intestine. And so because it uses the duct, this is called its exocrine function. And so glands are made up of cells, and these cells are making these secretions, these products. There are two types of glandular secretion. The first type here, merocrine secretion. I'm going to write this larger here. Merocrine way of secretion means that the product is released through exocytosis, which meant that the vesicle holding the product moves up to the cell surface, attaches the cell membrane, and then opens up, and whatever was inside is coming out of the cell. Next, the apocrine type of secretion means that the top portion of the cell is shed along with the product. And so here you can see in the picture how the upper part of the cell is budding off or breaking apart from the main part of the cell. Then after it breaks off, the parts on the inside are released. The third type of secretion is called the holocrine method. In this way of secretion, the entire cell ruptures, and whatever was inside the cell then comes out.